In lesson 5, we're going to be learning about lists, which are bulleted and numbered. In HTML5, they're basically called unordered or ordered. We're also going to be learning how to create graphical tables, and then we'll be learning the CSS that goes with lists and tables, but it is CSS that you can apply to any element. Okay, it's most often used with lists and tables, which is why I've included it here, but just realize that it's applicable to anything. And we've got a couple different sections in the book that you are going to be reading. And then we have the lecture demo. And so we get into lists first. And there's lots of interactive examples for you. If there is CSS styling that you can apply to a unordered or an ordered list to change how it looks, typically it's done as an inline style. So I've actually showed you that here as well. And then we get into the border CSS. And basically, borders can be all around a section, but you can also use borders on the top or the bottom, the left or the right. And then there's all sorts of different styles of borders. So this is showing you some of the things that you can do with borders. And then we get into graphical tables and how to create them. What is the table structure? And so on. So you'll go through here, read through everything, and you'll come back and you will do the textbook assignment. For the textbook assignment, I am giving you some files. They're starter files. So you're going to be downloading these, and make sure you right-click, save target as or save link as. Same with the graphics. You're going to want to right-click, save those to the media folder. I'm also giving you some starting CSS. So you're going to right-click and save those into your CSS folder. And then you are going to be modifying the pages. So for those of you that are curious, this is a real recipe that you could make yourself. And the reason I chose it is because it's pretty awesome to practice doing listing and nested lists. So that is why I chose this recipe. So I'm giving you an example of what it should look like. I'm showing you what the code looks like, and you can see that we are doing some styling here to change it to lower alphabetic, which you can see. And the thing that people tend to miss on this particular exercise is they will sometimes miss their closing HTML for the lists. And so that tends to mess up your list because you can see I have a nested list here with an opening. You need to make sure you get that closing in there, because if you forget the closing or it gets messed up, it kind of throws the rest of it off. Okay, so that's the one area you need to be a little careful with. And you will be practicing all of the different types of lists in this particular document. Then you're going to update that cake recipe style sheet. And this is the different code you're going to be adding to that. There is an additional piece of code that you're going to also change down here. So don't forget that one. And then there's some text at the top that you're going to convert into a little table. And that's what this hands-on is showing you. Then you're going to be working on the Hitchcock page, and this deals with a graphical table. And in order for the table to look good, you are going to end up merging your cells. So you're going to be using row span and column span in this particular exercise. So this kind of shows you what it looks like to begin with. Okay, and you'll be adding some styling. And so this is the styling that you're going to add. And then you're going to be combining the columns and rows using either row span or column span. And then this is what it should look like when you're done. So make sure you double check your code against this because then you'll know if you've done it right or not. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we are going to create some news columns in the breaking news page. And that's just a little bit of CSS to actually create that news column look. So that is the assignment. Every single task does have a video that will help you. And once you are done with the textbook assignment, then you're going to do the lab assignment, which basically involves creating your own pages. So you will be selecting the topic of your pages, and you do need to adhere to NMC's Title IX and their Student Code of Conduct. So if you are not familiar with those, take a quick look. And as far as the images that you use, you just need to make sure they're royalty free. And back in, I believe it was lesson 3, I did give you quite a few links to different sources under the resources section. So the first part of this assignment, you're going to create a new page using lists and tables. This is the minimal requirements. You have to have one ordered list, one unordered list, and a table. So if you want to do a recipe, you can. Okay. So if you did something similar to the lemon cream cheese crumb cake recipe, that would meet the requirements. If you don't want to do a recipe, I have an example of a resume. And if you want to do something completely different, that is perfectly fine. You just need to make sure that you've incorporated these minimum requirements. As far as the external style sheet for this is an example of different style rules. You'll notice I did not put values in because quite often students copy this and they paste it. This should be your creation, not mine. So do you have to use these? No, it's just an example. Okay, so if you want to do something similar to what we did in the lemon cream cheese crumb cake and you want to use CSS that's similar, that's fine. If you like what I did in the resume and you want to do something similar, okay, that's fine too. I mean, if you right click and go into the view page source, you can actually see everything, but your requirement is an external style sheet. So this is an internal one. So you would need to make an external instead of an internal style sheet. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. You do need to have an inline style in the table tag indicating the width. So do not forget to do that. And then your second part is going to be to create a news column page. So this can be on whatever you want. You know, if you are going to use an existing poem or story, you need to cite it. So a direct quote is fine as long as you put it in quotations and you cite the source. So to create a news column format, you need to include column count, column rule, and column gap, in addition to column span. That is what you should have in your CSS. And then any additional styling that you want. And I do not care if you do an internal or an external style sheet. So my example was the poem The Raven. You can see I did put a background graphic in here. I did kind of lighten it in photo editor and I put it in the background. So I positioned it in the bottom right to make it over on that side. Okay, and then I am citing my source. Okay, so it's perfectly fine for you to do this as long as you cite the source. And the news column can be on whatever topic you want. So it doesn't have to be a poem or story. If there's something else you want to do, awesome. Then the third part of this is updating your assignment page with links. And then you are going to create bulleted lists for each of the links. So how do you do that? There is a quick way to do this in VS Code. You can actually use the replace command, but what you're going to want to do is kind of replace the end of it. So P and then angle bracket is going to be replaced with LI, an angle bracket. And you'll need to do actually, if you do it that way, that should catch the opening and the closing tags. Okay, so that should work for both. Replace all, and it should convert your paragraphs into the bulleted list lines. And then you just have to add your opening UL and closing UL tags. Okay, so that is what you're going to need to do here. How that looks in your code. You can see I had to add the opening and closing UL tags, but for the lines and the closing lines, I did the replace command. So that is the lab assignment. And if you have problems or questions, make sure you get that page transferred up so I can see it and then throw me an email. Have fun with the assignment this week and let me know if you have any questions.